Hey guys, Mr. Wiz here. We are going to continue working on our projectile games today. So in the last video, we created a simple program with an asteroids coming across the screen and the player trying to avoid them. Today, we're going to give the player the ability to shoot back and destroy some asteroids. So let's get started. All right. So first things first, of course, go ahead and open up the program that we worked on in the last video. If for some reason it did not autosave, remember you can import manual saves. So if you did a manual save, you can click down here on the main screen and go to import and import that file. But if it autosaved, it should be in your My Projects section, and it should have all of your previous work from the last video. So here's what I've got in my game so far. My player can move up and down easily, and the goal here is simply to avoid getting hit by the asteroids, and that's about it. So pretty straightforward setup there. Today we're going to give our player the option to shoot back and destroy those asteroids rather than just trying to avoid them. So to do this, we will have to use the other projectile. So just a reminder, in the sprite section, there are two projectile blocks, one with projectiles that come from a sprite and one where projectiles come from the side of the screen. We're already using the one where projectiles come from the side of the screen for our asteroids. Today we're going to use this one for the bullets that come from the player. So when do we want the player to shoot the asteroids? Well, in typical games, we would do that with a button press of some kind, right? So let's go ahead and go to controller and grab on a button press and put that anywhere you want to in your code. Any of these empty areas is absolutely fine. And then inside on a button press, we are going to put that projectile block that comes from a sprite. That's the important one, right? All right, so here we're going to go ahead and design our projectile. I'm going to keep it nice and simple and just make a laser looking thing here. So let's just make a straight line. And I'm gonna make it a few pixels thick, because if it's too skinny, players aren't gonna be able to see it, right? So right around there looks good. Let's see how that looks when we actually play it. I might change it later, right? So I've got a little laser that blasts. It's gonna come from, and it says my sprite, and there's an error message there. Why do you guys think there's an error message there? See how well you've been paying attention in these last few videos. Why do you think I got an error message where it says my sprite? Figure it out. So the reason I get the error message is because nothing in my game is currently called my sprite. My character, in the last video, I changed his name to Spaceship. So I need to make sure that the name matches. So this projectile is going to come from the spaceship. Let's go ahead and rename it just to keep everything straight. Since we do have multiple different types of projectiles in my game, I'm going to rename this one, and I'm going to call it Laser. All right, so I've got, when I press the A button, the projectile should come from the spaceship. Let's see what happens when I press the A button. Oh, immediately got a game over. Why do you think that might be happening? Let's try it again. I pressed the A button, it created it, and then it immediately killed the player. Game over. Why do you think that happened? The game was working fine until I pressed the A button and it created my laser projectile. That's when the game ended. What could cause the game to end? Well, let's think about what we designed in the last video. The only part of my code right now that is a game over block is right here, where the player overlaps with the projectile. But the player didn't hit any asteroids. He did hit a projectile, however. What do I mean? Well, let's take a look at it. So I'm avoiding the asteroids, everything's good. I go to shoot one, and the game ends. What projectile did I just hit or overlap with? I just overlapped with the laser that I created. So when I created the laser is a projectile, and my code right now says when the player hits a projectile, game end, game over. So how do I fix this? I don't want the player to end the game as soon as they shoot the laser. How can I fix this? Here's what I need to do. I need to create a new kind for my laser. So in the sprite section, if you scroll down This is actually near the bottom. There's a lot of stuff here in the sprite section, but near the bottom, you get to this section here that says set my sprite kind. This allows us to change the kind of something that already exists in our game. So the laser right now is a projectile. I want to set the laser to a new kind. So the options I have are player, projectile, food, enemy. I'm going to create a new kind because what I'm looking for doesn't really seem to fit any of those. So I'm going to create a new kind, and what should I call it? What should I call the kind that comes from the player? I'm going to call it blaster, just so I know what it is. So the laser is a blaster kind. All right, so that's going to help me get started. So let's see if that fixed that problem. Okay, cool. So the game's not ending. Now my blaster is shooting diagonally, kind of a weird angle to shoot at, right? Why is it doing that, you think? Why is the laser shooting diagonally down and not straight? See how well you remember it from the last video. Looking at my code here, which creates the laser, which part of this code is setting the direction and the speed? It is the Vx and the Vy. The Vx and the Vy set the direction and the speed. So the Vx is setting the speed 50 pixels per second in the positive x direction. Positive x is to the right. So that part, we want it to go to the right, so that part's good. Vy is setting 50 pixels per second in the positive y direction, which is down. So right now it's moving right and down at the same time, and that creates the diagonal that we have, right? So I want my y to be 0. That way it's only shooting to the right. So let's see how that looks. Not bad. You know what? I think I am going to change the way this looks, though. I don't really love the line, if I'm being honest. I'm just going to edit this a little bit here. Of course, you guys can edit yours however you want to. I'm just going to make it shorter. Yeah, for me, that looks a little bit better. Okay. So it is shooting the way I want it to. It's a little slow, so I could always go a little bit faster. Maybe instead of 50, maybe I want it to shoot at 100. Oh, that looks great. Yeah, I like that. Now, right now, when I shoot the asteroids, nothing happens. Why is nothing happening when I'm shooting my asteroids? Hopefully you figured it out already. The reason nothing's happening is because we haven't told the computer to do anything when it hits the asteroids. The only overlap code we have right now is for when the player hits a projectile, which is the asteroid kind, right? So when the player overlaps with the projectile, the game ends, but we don't have anything for when a blaster overlaps with the projectile. So we need to create a new overlap code for that. So when a blaster overlaps with a projectile. So this has to do with the laser and the asteroids, right? So when the blaster overlaps the projectile, what should happen? Well, I want it to destroy the projectile. So I'm going to go to the sprite section and scroll down to where it says destroy. And I want it to destroy the asteroid. So you might be tempted here to go ahead and hit destroy asteroid. So let's see what happens when I do that. When the blaster overlaps the projectile, destroy asteroid. If I do it this way, did you guys see that? What just happened when I shot the asteroid? You guys catching what's happening here? It's destroying the wrong asteroid. It's not destroying the asteroid that I'm shooting at. We ran into this situation when we created our chasing game that had multiple enemies. When you have multiple sprites on the screen that all have the same name, and you tell it to destroy that one object or do something to that one object, the computer doesn't know which one you're talking about. So what it does is it assumes you're referring to the last one that was made. So if I have multiple asteroids on my screen and I tell the code to destroy the last asteroid, it's going to destroy the last one that was made, not necessarily the one you want it to destroy, right? So you'll see it's always destroying the most recent asteroid, not necessarily the one I'm shooting at. So how do I make sure that it destroys the correct asteroid? Just like in the chasing game, we have to remember our temporary variables, the one that says sprite and other sprite. So sprite refers to, in this case, the blaster, and other sprite refers to the projectile. So depending on the order that we wrote our code in, sprite refers to the first one and other sprite refers to the second one. So I want to destroy the projectile kind. The asteroids are projectile kinds. So instead of saying destroy asteroid, I need to say destroy other sprite. And I'm going to drag and drop. Make sure you're dragging and dropping. Dragging and dropping that. Now, it will, basically what, in other words, to simplify what we're saying here, if a sprite of kind blaster, so that basically says if a sprite that is a blaster type, right, overlaps with another sprite that is the projectile kind, destroy that other sprite, that second sprite. So if any blaster in our game now hits any asteroid, it will destroy that asteroid. Even if there's multiple different asteroids on the screen, it will destroy the correct one, the one that's being overlapped. So let's test it out now. Hey, it worked. You guys see that? We are now destroying the correct asteroids in our games. Woohoo! Fun stuff, fun stuff, fun stuff. And I'm getting points for every asteroid I destroy because we still have the on destroy block for projectiles. Now, one thing you might notice is that when I destroy an asteroid, the laser still exists. So sometimes it might destroy multiple asteroids at once. That can make the game a little bit easy. And in fact, I'd actually argue it makes the game very easy because I could essentially just do this and I'm just going to win because there's nothing stopping me from winning. So let's also destroy the laser. So I'm going to duplicate this destroy block, and I'm going to destroy other sprite, which is the asteroid, but I'm also going to destroy sprite, which is the laser. So they will both get destroyed. So let's go ahead and test it out now. So now when I shoot one, it only can kill one asteroid at a time. It's not going to go through them and kill them all. It's still a pretty easy game, honestly. And we can talk more about making the game more challenging in a later video, and I will, in fact, do that, talk about ways to make this game more challenging. But for now, it's actually a pretty simple, pretty good game. We can shoot an asteroid. Everything looks great. If you want to enhance the appearance of this destruction, the plus sign behind where it says destroy, you can create an effect. So if you want the asteroid to destroy with a special effect, we can do that. What would be a good one? Let's see what ashes looks like. So if I destroy them with ashes, oh, that's actually kind of cool, right? And I can also set the time for that. So if 500 is too slow, maybe I want to destroy faster, I can do 100. Let's see what that looks like. There we go. Yeah, that looks great. So feel free to fancy up your game with these special effects. If you don't want to do ashes, you can try something else. There's fire, there's disintegrate. There's all sorts of things here that might fit this type of game. Some of these aren't going to fit as well. Like obviously destroying it with hearts wouldn't really make sense. But yeah, there's some fun ones here, so feel free to play around with that. You could also have the laser destroy in a fun way if you wanted to, but you don't have to, right? So that is a pretty simple setup for creating this projectile type game. If you wanted to enhance it more, of course, you could add an intro at the beginning to give people a name of your game, instructions on how to play. You could add sound effects for when you shoot. Maybe you want to have a shooting sound effect. Maybe you want to have a sound effect for when the asteroids are destroyed. You could put a sound effect in here. So feel free to add more stuff to this, but don't go too crazy with it because we will be coming back to this at a later time, right? So just a heads up, we will be adding more stuff to this game soon. So if you want to customize this some, you can, but don't go crazy with it. I would say just add the intro, some sound effects, and maybe change the special effects here. But otherwise, let's go ahead and keep the majority of the game the same so we can add to it soon. All right? Okay, so I hope you learned something new today. I hope you enjoy the game that you've made so far. I will see you guys soon in a later video. If you did learn something new, please click that like button. If you're not already subscribed, please subscribe. And don't forget to tell your friends and family that they can come to my channel as well to learn how to build some fun games. If you want to share this game that you made in the comments, you can. Or if you want to share it with family and friends, you can always do that too. Remember, you got the share button right here. Put in the name of your game, hit the share project, copy that link, and you can send it to anyone you want to. So feel free to show off anything you've made. to friends or family or in the comments. I love to see your games as well, especially if you got creative with it. So I will see you guys in the next video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.